joining us now with reaction is The Hill's Joe Concha, along with former White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer. Gentlemen, thank you for joining me tonight.
Thanks, Tammy.
Yeah,
hey, now, thank you, Tammy.
Joe, you deal with media all the time, and it's funny, isn't it? It's like they're going from island to island, and they create some new event or new scenario, a new reality for themselves, when we have a history of what's occurred here. Why do you think he's now kind of trying to remake himself as a Mr. Love Thy Neighbor at this point?
It's interesting, right? Pain is temporary, Tammy, but film is forever, and we just saw it there. Now, I think Joe Scarborough used to be very friendly with Donald Trump, the candidate, as was Mika Brzezinski. Donald Trump was on their show on a weekly basis by phone, and many on the left excoriated completely Scarborough and Brzezinski in terms of those interviews for being so friendly, and now I think they're trying to double down in terms of the criticism. But, you know, Joe Scarborough is the problem, not the solution. He has attacked the president not so much on policy, but on a third-grade personal level, as you just showed, even saying the president had early onset dementia 2 years ago, which if that was 2 years ago, we should be at a different level at this point, right? But no apologies from Joe Scarborough, Mika Brzezinski, and Chuck Todd I'll get to in a bit, but I want to let Sean get in here for a little bit.
You know, this is what we've seen, Sean, is the nature of the legacy media propping up and moving forward like they're an arm, a propaganda arm of the Democratic Party, which obviously encourages the kinds of hoaxes and the frauds that we've been seeing. And when I was on the left, we anticipated that the right would not respond, would not know what to do, and yet Chuck Todd is now saying it's the right who is making all of this dynamic happen and is the perpetrators of it. What's your take on his new approach?
Well, I think one of the real interesting dynamics that Donald Trump brought into office was that prior to him, there were three big pillars. It was lobbyists, donors, and the media that kind of every candidate on either party had to suck up to. And Trump eschewed all of them. Said, I don't need any of you. If you want to be on my team, great. And I think Chuck Todd and Joe Scarborough are so used to people sucking up to him to get on their shows that when they saw Trump take them on, they didn't know what to do. Let's not forget in the case of Chuck, I mean, frankly, he's never gotten this. He was a Democratic staffer to Senator Tom Harkin, and he's never understood the fact that he's not objective and that he can't continue to be on a show where he continues to fight for the left and talk about the right being bad. That interview that he talked about in Rolling Stone, where he went after Senator Cruz, right before him, I think, was Chairman Nadler. If you look at the contrast in how he conducted those two interviews, Nadler got away with saying whatever he wanted over and over again, false claim after attack after attack. When Cruz got on, there wasn't a breath before Chuck went after him. He treats the right very differently than the left, and he hasn't even tried to hide his political leanings.
Yeah, you know, Joe, what's interesting, too, is that, you know, people, we don't know why anyone would go on Meet the Press or would, any Republican would entertain any interviews in this kind of regard. And especially whether it's Chuck Todd or Jake Tapper, who is a Democratic aide on the Hill, of course, George Stephanopoulos. It's like a revolving door as they just kind of take over the media as that other arm. And here's Chuck Todd now, in a way, kind of trying to remake the reality for people as though his viewers are idiots or don't understand what's going on.
Yeah, Tammy, I think probably his viewers remember a time back in the 90s until 2008 when Tim Russert, who I consider the best interviewers of all time in broadcast media, was the moderator of Meet the Press. And he was meticulous, and he was tough, and he was relentless to lawmakers on both sides of the aisle. And that's why lawmakers like to go on Meet the Press, because it was so impactful when you went on there. If you were able to survive an interview with Tim Russert, who never made things personal, who stuck to policy, who would play back audio clips of a certain lawmaker and say, okay, defend that or explain that better. I don't see anybody doing that in this particular medium much anymore, particularly at those networks. And Chuck Todd is the exact opposite of Tim Russert. He's partisan. He's opinionated. He's sanctimonious. And again, Sean Spicer just made a perfect point. Watch Chuck Todd interview an Adam Schiff, who has, by all accounts, credibility problems. And it's a conversation. It's a back and forth without any challenging. Right. And then you see a Senator Ron Johnson go on that show. And as Sean just said, can't get a breath in. Otherwise, it's hostile and it's personal. And that's why Meet the Press is a mere shell of what it used to be under the great Tim Russert.
It is. And, this is, Sean, this is what's interesting, is that the Democrats, I think, believe that this is helpful for them, that they're being facilitated and helped along. At the same time, Republicans tend to govern better, are better politicians, get more done, I would argue, in part because they are confronted so regularly. And in the meantime, the Democrats have never learned how to handle hard questions or how to refine their ideas, how to answer tough questions from any reporters. And that, in the end, it almost, denigrates like a termite infection in their foundation as it begins to crumble because they're never confronted. In the long run, do you think that Republicans, in fact,
good evening, everyone.
We have
I'm
to
Greg
be better
Jarrett.
as conservatives because we're constantly challenged? I think that that's helpful. It is one of the important things about the media, an incredibly valuable and imperative aspect of American society. Do you think that we're going to be able to move past this? Is this a time where Americans are going to demand more from media, or do you think that it's in its waning days of the kind of media we used to have with, like, a Russert, as an example?
Well, the media used to dominate the entire landscape, right? Back not too many years ago, you had ABC, NBC, CBS. They told you what the news was every evening and in the morning, and that was it. You had an evening paper, maybe a morning paper. They were able to decide what news you got and how you got it. With the proliferation of the internet, blogs, Twitter, etc., social media, now people can get what they want where they want it. It makes it a lot harder for the media and people like Chuck Todd to dominate the conversation. That's the big difference, is that Republicans understand that they're never going to get a free pass or get a fair shake from the mainstream media. So they have to go around it. And that's what Reagan did with local media and talk radio. That's what New Day Republicans are doing with the internet and social media, is going directly to the people. And that's what I think the landscape has changed, is that instead of allowing the media and these hosts to dominate what you hear, when you hear it, and how you hear it, people are able to go around them and communicate directly with people. And that's what, frankly, Trump did via Facebook and other social media sites, is allow people to go directly to him as he went around the big media.
It's been brilliant, and you're absolutely right. Thank you for the Reagan reminder in that talk radio was the framework there that he used and made possible, getting rid of the fairness doctrine, and now we have the internet so that these individual voices can work, and certainly President Trump's working that well. We're out of time, gentlemen. Thank you very much. Thank you, Joe and Sean. Great stuff. I appreciate it. Coming up.